December source.
What's your email address?
Sharon,
Two N's.
yeah, at food art love.com or Facebook.
Okay. Okay, up the sound.
Good afternoon. I want to thank all of you for being here. I know we're having the social distance this celebration of Karen, and it's difficult for all of us. It isn't just hard that we've lost a dear friend, but it's tough when we can't call our loved ones. Karen was a person who really became involved in everything. And I'll talk more about that a little bit later on. But what I wanted to do before we get started is I want to welcome all of you here. I want to thank you for being here. And Tom, thank you so much for putting the videos and so forth together to get this out to the folks that couldn't be here, that are with us virtually. So thank you. And with that, what I would like to do is open with prayer, asking Pastor Donna if she would come forward, please.
I think almost everybody knows me, but in case you don't, I'm Pastor Dawn Linsky, pastor of United Grace Lutheran here in Toledo. Pleasure. And so we open this celebration of Karen's life with prayer. Let's pray. Good and gracious God, Holy One of many names, we come before you today to celebrate the life of Karen Jean Sims, who is a friend, a family member, a colleague, and a fierce advocate for justice. Comfort those of us who mourn. Be with us in this time of difficulty. For we already know that Karen is there with you, and that you love her greatly. And we pray in your many names. Amen. So I was asked to read Karen's obituary. Born on October 27, 1953, Karen G. Sims quietly passed away on December 11, 2020. Arriving in San Francisco over 40 years ago by way of Georgia and Texas, she began work as a secretary and over the next 35 years rose to the position of district manager for San Mateo. After retiring, Karen packed her van and leaving her partner and son behind, toured the U.S., stopping to visit with friends that she got to know over the years. When talking to those who knew her, we hear the same words to describe her. A natural-born leader, pragmatic, competent, determined, clear in thought, never judging others, a problem solver with attention to detail, and superb organization skills. On a more personal level, her friends remember her keen insight, her gentle but firm advice on any issue or problem, and her laughter. Karen's joy burned like light, and its glow shined on us all. The accolades continue. You knew. Wise, someone to be trusted, a confidant, an advisor, and a compassionate guide, even in the darkest of times. We who knew her have both fond and fun memories of Karen when she lived in San Francisco, San Mateo, and then Vallejo. Camping trips, whitewater rafting, and especially for riding up and down the hills of San Francisco on the back of a motorcycle. She had a circle of friends in her life, both personal and professional, from virtually every segment of society. Poets, artists, politicians, and colleagues, just to mention a few. Karen fiercely defended what mattered to her, whether it be friends or family or her community. She never hesitated to involve herself personally. From the very beginning, she became active in Vallejo politics, eventually finding herself in several political campaigns, and she constantly remained involved, working tirelessly. There will never be another Karen. Unique barely describes her. She was a mentor, an advisor, a guide, a trusted friend, a partner, and a mother. She wrote fine poems and danced in the desert twilight. Good night, sweet princess. May flights of angels sing thee to thy rest.
Thank you, Pastor Don. You have to come forgive me. It's like trying to get through this. One of the easiest things to do. But I'm going to be inviting folks up to speak in just a little bit. And I really want to thank Pastor Don for her words. They've always, ever since I met you, Pastor Don, your words have always made my heart feel good. Thank you. One of the things Karen did for me is, everybody in this room knows, is she was my campaign manager when I ran for mayor. Well, what a campaign manager Karen was. I mean, Kathy knows, Kathy was my campaign manager when I ran for city council 10 years ago. And how difficult of a job it can be, especially with a person like me who is very headstrong, argumentative, sometimes not very friendly, all the other adjectives that people in this room can probably think of that would adequately describe my personality when things weren't going the way I wanted. Karen did such a phenomenal job in putting a campaign together. We got the team together. She made things happen, made things work. Never forget the morning after the election. I woke up at 0:30 wondering, gee, what did we do? And I turned on the computer and I saw the numbers and I called Karen and I started shouting, "We won!" She goes, "You know what time it is?" John, I'm sorry I woke you guys up. And so over the years, what was really exciting was Karen became an advisor to my office. And I could always trust her with sensitive information. I could rely on her wisdom, her common sense. And she really helped me work through some really difficult issues that came up time and time and time again. Karen's vast knowledge of politics helped me navigate through some huge political minefields. And she was always there to help me craft speeches, write policy. One of the things that was impressive about Karen is that she knew the pulse of the community. And she would tell me the facts that I needed to hear, even if they were hard to listen to. And for that, I'm deeply thankful. She was my confidant, my advisor. But most of all, Karen was my friend. And will forever miss you, Karen Sims. Rest in peace, my friend. It's well deserved. With that, I authored a memorial proclamation honoring the life of Karen Jean Sims that I'd like to read, and if you would indulge me, I'd like to read it in its entirety. Whereas Karen Jean Sims was born in rural Alabama on October 27, 1953, and ascended into the heavens on December 11, 2020. Pardon me. Pastor Don and I were talking, oh, we can get through this. Whereas Karen was raised in the Washington, D.C. suburbs in and around Virginia, where she attended school and ultimately attended and graduated from the University of the Commonwealth of Virginia with a Bachelor of Science degree in urban planning. And whereas after graduating from college, Karen joined the Peace Corps. She became active in many of the political causes in the South and ultimately moved to Atlanta, Georgia, to continue her activism. And whereas in the mid-70s, Karen moved to California, working various jobs in San Francisco, where she began to call it home. And whereas, while looking for full-time work, she interviewed with the Social Security Administration and was immediately hired as an office assistant. She quickly rose through the ranks until she became the district manager, GS14, of 3 offices of the Social Security Administration in San Mateo County. She worked for them until she retired in 2017. And whereas in August of 1995, she met the love of her life, John Reed, at a conference she was teaching in Las Vegas, Nevada. The two became life partners soon thereafter, moving to Vallejo, purchasing a home together, and raising their son, Jonathan. And whereas she served on the Greater Vallejo Recreation District Board of Directors, Solano Democratic Central Committee, Vallejo Participatory Budgeting Steering Committee, Vallejo Police Chief Selection Committee, and was the Vice President of the Solano United Dems. And whereas Karen made it her life's commitment to right wrongs, fight for just causes, advocate for equality, social justice, peace, and the environment, and many other beliefs that she held close to her heart. And whereas Karen Jean Sims led a full life of experience, public service, and social activism. Her smile, courage, dedication to causes, and love of life will be missed by all. So therefore, now let it be proclaimed that I, Bob Sampine, Mayor, and the entire Vallejo City Council do honor the life of Karen Jean Sims and express our most sincere thanks for her many contributions to the city of Vallejo and her residents. Signed December 30th, 2020 by me, Bob Sampine, Mayor, and the Vallejo City Council. John, I'm going to present this to you and Jonathan on behalf of the city. You know, yeah, it is difficult. But one of the things that I've been asked folks to do is come up and share a memory, Karen. Miguel Castillo. I saw you up there on the screen, and I know you have some hilarious stories that I know you want to share with me. You were cracking me up the other day when we talked, so I hope you share stories. But you could do that by, let me ask.
He's on Zoom.
Okay.
So I thought we'd do the room first and then go to
Okay,
Zoom.
sir. we will do that. So please, come on up to the microphone. Please say something about Karen, be it serious, funny, or otherwise. We all have funny stories of Karen. And we have, some real touching stories of Karen. But in her honor, I would invite you to the microphone. So please, if you would.
Okay. Yeah. And then Eric?
Please speak up.
I will try to speak up, do my corporate mask, which of course we wear colors that Karen wear. My name is Leanne Weisenheimer, for those of you who don't know me. I was trying to think of when exactly it was that I met Karen. And I can't remember, because it just seems like Karen was just always there. She was just always there. We knew many people because we worked together, we worked for Social Security, and so we knew people that worked for the agency. But I can't remember, I can't pinpoint the exact time that I met her. But from the time that I knew her, she was always somebody that you could talk to. And she probably, at night when she was home with John, go like, did you know what this crazy woman told me today? Because no matter what was going on, Karen always made time. And she would listen. And, no matter how crazy I would get and how far down the road I'd tumble, she'd always sit, and then you'd know, because she'd take that sigh and give you that look. And she says, okay, so how are we going to fix it? How do we fix it? So there wasn't anything that you could walk away with and feel like it wasn't unresolved, because she was going to make you find a way to fix it. And she usually could tell you the path that you needed to take. She wasn't judgmental, although she'd give you that look. You knew. So I was blessed to have her as a friend who helped me also with political campaigns, and somebody to work with here in the city, because she was always that voice that would calm people down when we were having our hissy fits and being upset and I'm through, I'm not doing this anymore. She's like, no, let's fix it. So I appreciate having that type of friend. You knew whatever you talked to her about, that she kept in confidence, and that you could always, no matter how crazy it was, depend on her to kind of guide you back into the right path. She was fun. She, of course, had the envy of the Bay Area for earrings, because everybody loved Karen earrings. So once I got my hair cut, one of the things I laughed with her, and I told her, I said, I never got to wear my long earrings because my hair was always long. So I got it short. I told her we were going to be competing now to see who had the brightest and biggest earrings. So anytime that you see bright colors and flowers and trees and the sky, it should remind you of Karen, because she's still here with us. And we have to remember tell people when you appreciate them. And you can't take it for granted that there'll be another day for you to do it. So remember to thank people for being in your life and for helping you and being your friend. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Leon. And Eric.
Like Bob, I don't know if I'm gonna get through this, but
you will. Starting off with my coffee here, because Darren and I probably drank a tanker full of coffee over the last couple of years, and I know that John and Jonathan can attest to that, because we had many a fireside, I'll just say fireplace side chats in the dining room. But I actually like to start with a quote from Maya Angelou, and it's determined to live your life with laughter and flair. Hey, can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. Determined to live your life with laughter and flair. And I think that if there was anybody who would exemplify that, that was Karen. I remember when I met her, of all the places, it was at a political fundraising event in Manning Wendell's house in 2011. Christmas. Well, this is what I remember, it's my memory. But I mean, when I really like got to know her, and we sat there, we stood there in the garage, and I remember this crazy dyed hair and the earrings and the flowing shirt and the bag, and I was like, my goodness, who is this person? This vision? And it was like she was part hippie, part unicorn, part yenta. And I was like, you know, we stood there and we talked for at least an hour, and I knew at that point we were going to be friends. So from then on, you know, I had no idea that Karen Sims would find a way to weave her threads through the fabric of life. And I just love Karen. One of the things that I really loved about her was that she could find the good in everyone. And when you're working on campaigns, you deal with a lot of, I'll just say, personalities. And we were talking about a particular individual, and Karen said, you know, I'm sure this woman has some redeeming qualities, but I just haven't found them yet. So this is what Karen was about. And there's one other quote that I want to share with you. And it's, people may not remember what you did. They might not remember what you said. People will remember how you made them feel. And I can tell you that Karen always made me feel loved, made me feel competent, welcome, and heard. And I honestly think that's how she got people to join in. And I know many of you in here got a phone call from Karen that probably started with, you know, there's something here I think you would be really good at. Or, you know, there's something here you might really be interested in. Or if you don't like it, you can always quit. But she knew that once she got you, she had you for the duration of whatever it was. And she got me a number of times, and I think her biggest challenge with me was trying to get me to be a Democrat. And for years, she would call me up and say, well, there's this thing that the Dems are doing. I said, Karen, I'm not a Democrat. And in a nice way, she would say, well, stop cutting off your nose to spite your face. And Colin called me a few months ago and said, I have this opportunity, but you have to be Democrat. So the first person I called was Karen. And again, she posed it to me, and only the way she could is like, don't cut off your nose to spite your face, and come on, work with me, we'll have fun. So 2 days later, I was ready to be Democrat. And I'm sorry that I never did get to work with her as a Democrat. But I will say that I will continue to embody what she started. And I'm also very grateful that the last time I saw her in November, that the last things we said to each other was that we loved each other. Then I'll see you later. I gotta go. She said, I love you, darling. And, I'm so fortunate that that was the last exchange we ever had in person. My friend, we'll miss you terribly. Thank you, Eric. Oh. Please. Hi, everyone. Hi, I'll make it through this. I met Karen in 1979, which seems like a world ago. I met her at a really cross point in my life. And she stepped in and helped me make it through that 2 years. I don't think I would have come out with this thing if it wasn't for her. And from that point on, Karen and I were sisters. Just carry everything I did, she knew. And it has been that way. And so my biggest challenge now is how do I get through the next tragedy in my life without her? Because she's been there for every last one. And I'm real scared of that. But I also know that without her, I would never have gotten to where I am. Karen made me be the person that I became. And without her, that would never have happened. She made me go for things that I would never have done without her. And because of that, I can have the life I have today, which I would not have had it not been for her. So, because as everybody knows, Karen never wore black and white. And I always wear black and white. And for 40 years, she has yelled at me about wearing black and white too much. And I thought she would recognize me today if I didn't wear black and white. And I also wore a pin that we bought together. I don't know if everybody knows, but Karen has an extensive collection of Christmas trees, mostly Christmas trees. Some of them were $5 or $10, some of them were $20. And she was always very disturbed by the fact that I didn't know. And that because Gracie jewelry was just not my thing.
so one year, she was determined that I would have a Christmas tree there. And so, of all of the kids in the line that there were to pick from, I, of course, chose the one with no colored stones. Because that was who I was. And I always thought that the reason why Karen and I were such good friends was because we balanced each other. I was the other side of her, and she was the other side of me. And I've got to find a way to find that other side. But I will miss her forever. And I will love her forever. And that was one of the last things I told her. So I feel good. So.
Thank you, Susan. Anybody else? No, please.
Well, I will have I'm getting through this very rough. Miguel Castillo, 7 years ago, called me and said, I'm bringing someone special to your Christmas party. Well, then I came. And Karen was just as loving and bright and red hair that you thought was on fire. And she was just the most loving person. And from then on, we and Manny and John and Jonathan, Miguel and Michael and many, many adventures. And one I remember we were in Rome, and we're leaving the Vatican, and Manny and I are looking around and going, man, where the hell's Karen? He goes, I don't know. I said, well, I'll go find her. Don't you let this bus leave. So that was, Karen had COPD, as we all know, and she was having a little trouble. And sure enough, I found her, and she was on a conveyor belt, and she was just so glad to see me, and I was so glad to see her. And it was just a wonderful. And after that, we do Mexico, and she and John would do it's called the Floating River, and then the campaigns, so many campaigns. And she called me up and she said, well, you know, Bob's going to run. You better get your house, okay? And I said, okay, here we go again. I remember when some bad things were happening and there was some discussion going on in the room, and Karen always loved a cup of coffee. So Karen would show up early, and I'd say, oh, Karen, tonight's going to be rough. And so I would make her coffee, and it was a little thing we had between the two of us. I would fill it with Kahlua. Nobody in the whole place knew but Karen and I, and we got through it. But this woman, hours and hours and hours we spent on the phone, and she would say, okay, I gotta get off the phone, it's just about to die, call me on the other one. So, you know, she's my heart. She's my friend. She'll always be my friend. I look at the phone sometimes during the day and I go, damn, I can't call her. I can't call her. But I can still communicate with her. I know she's there. I love her with all my heart. And I love you, Jonathan. I love you, John. We're there for you.
Okay, who else microphone? Catherine, can you mention that? Oh, Brenda. Please. pretty to say right off the top that I'm not gonna be able to get through this. Karen was my friend. She was my confidant. She was my political barometer. You know, you all know that I can get fairly heated up. No. But always, whenever I would get heated up, my car seemed to always turn down Illinois Street, and I would tell at Karen's house unannounced. And she never turned the light. And Don would be there, and I would just sit there, help calm me down. You know, it was always, Karen's was always, can you imagine? Whenever I come up with something, I can't imagine my political work without Karen. She's the only one in this town who I absolutely knew. She always tell me the truth. She told me when I was wrong. Tell me when I was out of pocket. Tell me to bring my ass back inside and calm down. And I would listen because I knew she loved me and I loved her. There is no greater progressive Democrat that has ever been born than Karen Sims. Her whole life was around progressive politics. Equal access, full inclusion, you know, all of the things that good Democrats are supposed to be fighting for. Karen exemplified those things. I will miss her. The thing that I will miss is that we were two old Southern gals. Karen was born in Georgia and I was born in Mississippi. And we would spend afternoons talking about our Southern upbringing. The greatest thing that I remember, and I hope that she enjoyed it, was for Thanksgiving, we took Karen some collard greens. She said that she wanted collard greens and she missed them. And so we took Karen over a plate of collard greens. And I hope she enjoyed them. I loved her dearly. This town has lost one of its premier champions. Karen loved Vallejo, just as Vallejo loved her. Rest in power, my sister, rest in power.
Thank you so much, Brenda.
And may I ask, Kathy? Thank you, Kathy.
I absolutely hate public speaking. There's probably falling over right now. She knows how much I hate standing up in front of people and speaking. So this is a lot for you. I don't know Karen as long, maybe as well as many of the people here or there did, but she put a mark on my life and on my soul. And I can't imagine that there's a single person here or anywhere that she came in contact with that can't say the same thing, whether you knew her for a half hour or for 40 years. In this absolutely miserable year that we've all had, experiencing so much sadness and pain, Karen gave me, probably, other than my granddaughter, the one point of joy that I've had this year. She called me and asked if I was going to be home on my birthday. I'm like, well, of course, where else am I going to be? And she's like, okay. And I figured she's just going to stop by with one of her Karen goodie bags, which I'm sure probably most people in this room have received one of Karen's goodie bags. And so it's mid-morning on my birthday, and of course I'm still in my pajamas, my hair's roll out of bed here. And I get a knock at the door, and I get to the door, and John's laying a cake down, a hummingbird cake, and only the best. And I'm saying thank you to John, and I hear him going, no, 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 no. And he turns around, and he's like, oh, I'm supposed to tell you to come outside. And I'm like, okay, so barefoot, pajamas, Broomhilda hair. I go outside and I hear honking, massive amounts of honking. I'm like, what the heck? And all of a sudden, here comes car after car after car of people honking and screaming, goosebumps. Happy birthday, and it just seemed to go on for eternity. My neighbors are coming out going, what in the world's going on? And now the neighbors are all, and that was Karen. I mean, that's what she did. She made you feel loved. She made you feel special. And, you know, I am struggling with, I never told her how much I admired her, how much I appreciated her, and how much I loved her. And, you know, kind of going to what Leah said, you don't know what tomorrow's going to hold. Be sure the people in your life know how much you mean to them or how much they mean to you. In the couple of weeks before she left us, a group of us were talking kind of the frustrations of being isolated from the people we love, and we were going to do a bonfire in Karen's backyard, and we were going to take little items or little notes for 2020, and we were going to burn them in the bonfire. Kind of calling it, I'd like to call it the exorcism of 2020, but you know, we got put back on lockdown, so we had to postpone it. And maybe it was a week before she went away. She was talking, we were talking, and she was saying how she was thinking about dying with hairpin. Well, she never got around to it, so this thing's for you, Karen. Thank you, and I love you, and I'm sure if we need it, you'll be up there popping us in the head if we do something stupid, so.
Thank you, Kathy. And does anybody else wish to say a few words? Okay, and so let's go with our online folks.
Okay.
And if you could announce who they are when they come on.
Sure. For folks online, we'll be transferring over to Zoom now. So we'll start with Steve Young, if you'll give me just a moment. Steve, you could go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. And I want to thank Mayor Sampayan for inviting me to.
Hold on, Steve.
Pardon me? Am I muted? Can you hear me? All right. Some people say they can hear me. John says he can hear me. That applies for the rest of you. So I just wanted to thank Tom for organizing this and Mayor Sampayan for inviting me to participate. My experience with Karen is not nearly as broad or deep as most of you. I've only known her for a short time. I actually got to know her through her work on the County Democratic Central Committee. When I was first elected to that organization, I knew where my own politics were, but I wasn't sure where the rest of the group was. And it became pretty clear early on that there was a split in the Central Committee between progressives, which I would put myself in that camp, and then others who were less politically woke, less progressive. And Karen made herself available as sort of an experienced hand in terms of trying to determining who was who and what was what when it came to county politics, Democratic Party politics. When I decided to run for mayor, I did not have much establishment backing. The only elected officials who ended up endorsing me were Mayor Sampayan and Supervisor Monica Brown. Every other every other elected official in the area was supporting my opponent. And I had a handful of people who had worked on my city council campaign 4 years earlier who were helping me out, but it was definitely going to be an uphill struggle because it had already been declared by Valero that they were going to spend whatever it took to make sure that I didn't win. And so that was a little intimidating, but I charged ahead. And at some point, I don't know if it was Tom or Karen, but I think it was Tom who volunteered out of the blue to help me on my campaign. And perhaps thanks to Mayor Sampayan not running, he said that Karen might be available to help as well. I didn't know particularly what her skills were, but I was looking for any kind of good, solid professional help. And so I welcomed both of them into my campaign. And Karen turned out to be a really important member. She was, as probably everybody knows, she's a great writer. She's a great editor. She worked tirelessly on trying to put my one mailer together. Tom and Karen and Carrie Birdseye spent lots of time going over and over pictures and quotes and putting the whole thing together. And it turned out to be a really solid piece of political advertising. And so I just wanted to acknowledge her smarts and her willingness to step up and help somebody she didn't really know, but she jumped right in. And because most of the campaign was done through social media and over, remotely, it wasn't until we had the celebration of my victory, which was a very resounding victory, that a lot of the members of the team met her in person for the first time. And all of our stuff before that had been over Zoom. And so when we were able to finally get together and meet each other for the first time, that was a especially gratifying moment for a lot of people, just to sort of make that physical connection to people that they had worked with pretty hard and solidly over the past several months. So I just want to say thank you to Karen and her family for what she brought to Benicia. I know, there weren't a lot of connections necessarily between Benicia and Vallejo when it came to politics, but they recognized that I needed some help and she stepped forward at the time I needed it. So I would just want to say thank you and how grateful I am for her participation and her actions that were so meaningful to so many. Thank you.
Miguel, go ahead.
Karen and I go back 41 years. And when I first met her, I was a manager of an office in San Francisco, Social Security Administration. And she came in for an interview and I thought she was a bag lady because Karen was a hippie, but she was a real hippie then. Brilliant, bright, sharp from the get-go. That motorcycle you heard that she used to ride up and down hills was on the back of my motorcycle. I remember the camping trips, the whitewater rafting, and Karen used to jump out of airplanes. Some of you may not know that. And she tried to get me to jump out of an airplane. And I said, if the plane was on fire and they gave me a parachute, I'd go down with the airplane. she was a sister that God sent to me, in every meaning of that word. I miss her. There's such a void in my life. And I have wonderful memories. I remember one time Wendell and Manny and me and Mike were in Mexico City, and we were going to fly to Acapulco because that was the next part of our trip. And the plane took off in the middle of a thunderstorm, which you think is kind of a bad idea. And the plane did everything but go upside down. And I was sitting next to Wendell across the aisle, and I came this close to asking Wendell to hold my hand. And the only two people in the plane that weren't afraid were Karen and Wendell. And she is the sister that God sent to me. I worship the ground she walked on. And Mike and I miss her very much. She went on a road trip after she retired for 5 months, traveled all over the US. And Mike and I met up with her one time in Dallas for a week. And then a couple months later, I flew to Savannah, Georgia, and we spent a week together then, driving around in her van with pasted flowers on the side. We really stood out in Savannah. And I miss you. And John and Jonathan, I send you my hugs. You know that I love you both very much. Jonathan, you're my godson. You're not alone. We're all with you. And Karen has left us all these wonderful people that have come together, and we always have each other. Thank you.
John, go ahead.
First, I send my love to John and Jonathan. There's so much to say about Karen. Many of you have said some of it already. One of the things I want to talk about is just how Karen made a Vallejo family, and she brought us together. Her Thanksgivings were the most incredible. You couldn't move. You could barely move to get up, to get around, to find something. And if you had to get out of your chair to get seconds or use the bathroom, you had to wait a while. But anyways, her Thanksgivings were, and her parties in her backyard were just magical. And she made Vallejo family between all of us, made connections and networking. Karen and I talked before this last Thanksgiving, and she wanted to have Thanksgiving this year. She wanted to find a way to either do it in her yard or spacing. She loved all of us so much. She wanted us together, but unfortunately with COVID, it just didn't happen. Karen was full of fire of love. Like Brenda said, for being a Democrat, there was squabbling, like when we had our Stonewall meetings or our other Democrat meetings, if there was unknown how to get these clubs to work together or how to find answers, Karen was right there. Oh, I'll go sit there. I'll go do that. She was the peacemaker. She was the one that wasn't afraid of barriers. She wanted us all to be united and work together for the common good of Vallejo. And I just love that so much about her. Karen also is just such a dear friend. If anything was happening, she'd be the first on the phone. Hey, you need to check this out. Or, hey, did you know this? She supported me on my campaign, and I supported her on hers. Even though walking hills in Vallejo was so difficult for her, she did it. She had a hard time breathing, but she was out there. Karen wanted to be on the Solano Community College board, and she worked so hard. Her and I we worked our campaigns together, and it was just her dedication and love. I'll never be able to express my gratitude for everything she did, not just for me, but for the greater good of Vallejo. Speaking of which, for the Vallejo Unified School District, Karen was on GVRD. Her latest thing she was working on was after-school programs. And for our Franklin location that was closed, how we can get youth involved and do things after school with them, or how can we get the plunge fixed? She was dedicated to our youth. She also was dedicated to early college-ready classes and pathways for our high school students to get to community college, or get a certificated program for 2 years and get a wonderful paying job. She was full of passion to get that message out to our youth. She also her passion when we needed a school bond desperately. Karen Sims was there for me. I nominated her to the committee for Measure S. She helped with everything she could. Like Bob Sampayan said, anytime I needed advice, I turned to Karen Sims for sound advice on both sides, because she was balanced, level-headed, and she looked at the whole picture. She was never, ever stuck on one side of anything, well, other than being a great Democrat and being a great person. I too, like Wendell said, and Miguel, look to the phone and want to call her for advice or just listen to her voice. Those times are so sad, but lately with the full moon the last 2 nights, I give her a kiss up in the sky and say, I love you, Karen. I know you're still there. And you'll always be there for all of us. You've touched our hearts. You've touched our souls. You will be forever the part of Vallejo and all of us. And the good in us will live on with Karen and Karen's memory. We will continue to do her work and find that balance and love and peace of each other and how we can work together. So anyways, John and Jonathan, again, I send you my love. It was wonderful hearing the stories. Miguel, I can envision Karen sitting behind you in a motorcycle up and down San Francisco. That just makes me laugh, and I'm going to use that memory. Wendell, putting Kahlua in the coffee, I love you so much. That's going to be lasting in my mind as another good memory. Hearing you guys all speak of the love and the memories, that's going to stick with all of us in our hearts and help us through this. And that's what Karen wants. Karen wants us to laugh. She wants us all to put on goofy earrings. She wants us to wear bright colors. She wants us to dance under the bright moon. She wants us to love and live our life every day. Like Kathy Beisel said, none of us know how many more days or minutes we might have. So let's just show the love and tell everyone how much they mean to us, and let's live our lives, because that's what Karen would want. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Jo Ellen. Hopefully I've unmuted myself. I think probably I know many of you from Cal Maritime, and that is how I know Karen partly. I'm going to speak to that in a minute, but first and foremost, I met Karen in December 2012, I believe. It was the first year of participatory budgeting, and I was lucky enough to have Karen in our, not only in our committee, but in a small group. There were, I believe, 4 or 5 of us. So got to know her fairly well through that. And I will be forever grateful for that initial connection, which then brought her to be a part of our Cal Maritime family. As John, I thought you were going to leave me on a high note and I could get through this with smiles and I'm so sorry. Let me just say that she was a phenomenal part of our host family. She hosted several of our Cal Maritime students. I know one of them is on the call with us now. I'm not sure if she's going to be able to speak. We both felt the same way, but I know she calls her Mama Karen. And I know the other students she was connected with felt the same way. So John and Jonathan, I know you have a giant hole. We all have giant holes in our heart, but I know you in particular, but we thank you for sharing her with our Cal Maritime students that gave them a little taste of having a family here locally. That's what that program is all about. And she did such a wonderful job. And one of the pictures that I on Facebook or I know was part of the Times Herald, that big, beautiful, yes, mentioning the bright colors. She has such a, I think it's orangey yellow, and that's the face, that's the image that I keep thinking of when I think of Karen. She wouldn't want us to be crying. She would not want me to be crying. She would want to be happy and smiling. I don't think I ever saw her not smile. And again, she is going to leave a big hole in all of our hearts, but certainly in many ways in the community. But for me, selfishly, through our program, she is one of the best of that program in reaching out and making our students feel part of our Vallejo community. So I just wanted to thank her for that. Thank you again, John and Jonathan, for sharing her with us. And hugs to all of us here. I think we all need that. So thank you.
Karina.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to do my best to try to make this through. My name is Karina Martia Harris, and I have been privileged to know Karen for 3 years now. To John and to Jonathan, I would like to thank you and for you guys opening your home to me, because there was no obligation to do that. But Karen, you know, would always make me feel at home. She, you know, became very involved with me, and compared to some of my friends at Cal Maritime with their host families,
It seems her.
Oh, sorry. I think I accidentally disconnected. But the bond that, you know, Karen and I got to establish these past 3 years is something that I will forever be grateful for. Just like people have mentioned, Karen always found the solutions that no one else would think of. I have been trying to make my way into the maritime industry, which I'm sure a good amount of you know is very male dominated. And when I told Karen that I wanted to do that, but I was only one person, you know, and I was only one person, and I am a woman of color, and that's something that's not common. She always, you know, said, you might be one person, but if you make your way, when you make your way in, you can be a role model for others. And that's what I want to do for her and in her memory. I've got to meet many of you through, you know, Karen's political fundraisers or the lovely Thanksgiving or the events in her backyard. And I'd also like to thank everyone here for allowing me to be a part of your life somehow. And to John and to Jonathan again, thank you guys so much. And I hope to see you guys soon when Corona allows. So thank you everyone again and giving me the opportunity to speak. And Karen, I know you're here with me. I'm wearing my orange just for you. And I know you'll always be with me and watching over me somehow. So thank you, everybody.
Leilani.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leilani Casada. A few years ago, I was in Active 2030 Vallejo, and we were an organization that benefited kids in Vallejo. And one of the ways that we would fundraise is we would flock houses. And what that was is somebody would pay us to sneak over and put plastic flamingos all over someone's yard. We do it in the middle of the night so that, you know, the next day when the person leaves their house, like, what are all these flamingos doing here? So in my time in 2030, I only got to do one flocking. And it was a quiet night, and my flocking partner and I, we drove over, tried to be really quiet, not get caught. And so we probably put up about 15 flamingos on this yard. And I just remember that night under a full moon, being really happy and giddy that we did the perfect crime, right? Fast forward a few years, later, and I was volunteering with Vallejo Participatory Budget, and it was a really difficult time in my life. Sorry. My grandmother had just passed away. I was going to college online. I was working full time, and I was volunteering for Vallejo PB. I was trying to write a proposal for conflict resolution training, and I didn't know anything about writing a funding proposal. I was in over my head. I was stuck. I didn't know what direction to take. And funny enough, that's when I met Karen. So she came up to me. She introduced herself as a member of the PB steering committee, and she offered me support. And since we were limited on time at the PB delegates meeting, she invited me over to her house. And so, you know, I'm in a dark place. I'm thinking, I'm just going to waste this woman's time. I don't even know why I'm doing this. If you could just imagine a gray cloud in a car, that was me. So I pull up to her house, and when I get there, like I gasp, because her house was the house I flocked. I knew that house. And it was one of those moments that was such a coincidence. It didn't feel like a coincidence at all. Right? It felt like a higher power winking. It had this touch of magic to it. So I went to her house, and we had a really amazing conversation that lasted a few hours. And it wasn't directly related to the proposal I was writing. I barely took any notes. I can barely remember the exact details of what we talked about. And like it was said earlier, it wasn't so much what we talked about, but it was how she made me feel. I felt seen, I felt understood, I felt supported, I felt camaraderie that someone else knew and understood what I was passionate about and why it reminded me why I was volunteering. I felt reinvigorated, I felt ready to put in the necessary work, and that was the kind of person that Karen is. I experienced her as warmth, kindness, encouragement. Her energy was calming. I never felt rushed in her presence. And despite that serenity, Karen was a fighter. She cared deeply and genuinely about her community, about youth and education. And so in the years since, we'd crossed paths again several times, and every time it was beautifully synchronistic. The last time I was having this conversation with my friend, and she was like, well, what's next for you, Ilani? Like, would you want to get involved in policy? And I was like, I don't know, maybe, but I don't really understand how all that works. And the crazy thing is, maybe a week later, I get an email from Karen, and she asked me to be her alternate delegate with the Central Committee. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but yes, please, if you're going to teach me. That was my experience with Karen. Every time, it always felt like a playful wink. Like she just had really amazing timing, or it was a coincidence that was such a coincidence. It was too good to be a coincidence. It's something about her, like she had amazing timing. And like others have said, I think the heartbreaking thing about this year is that we've all been doing everything online, and we've been limiting our contact in front of each other. I didn't get to hug her and thank her and tell her how much it meant to me, how seen I felt, how much it means to have someone believe in you, how much her friendship and her mentorship meant to me. And it's remarkable to me that it can shake you up out of your world and your view of it when someone believes in you, and when someone encourages you, when someone includes you, when someone asks you questions that shift your perspective, when someone shares insight to their journey so that you can bear yours a little easier. If you don't express it, that someone might not even know the depth of their impact to you. So I guess I just wanted to say, like, to everyone here who does that kind of work, who's a mentor, who's a friend, who's a helper or a light, you are loved and you are appreciated. Thank you for caring. Thank you for the work that you do and the love and the care that you have. Your existence colors the world in beautiful hues, and it brightens the path for those of us who are feeling a little lost. Thank you for you. And Karen, thank you for you. Thank you for your impact on the community. And selfishly, I just want to thank you from the bottom of your heart, of my heart, for your impact on me.
Go ahead, Shannon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shannon, and I'm Karen's niece. I know a lot of you. I've been blessed to meet so many amazing people in my Aunt Karen's life. Sorry, I was doing well up until that last one. So beautiful to hear such personal shares from people and how, I know, but this is all so much a part of the world that, I live up in the Pacific Northwest, and, this is part of her day-to-day that, like, I was just sort of apart from. We talked, of course, all the time, and I know about her deep passion and involvement in politics, but, to just hear from so many people involved is, it's just so incredible to see the breadth and depth of her involvement and the work that she was able to do. And, really, I know that was such a culmination sort of her life goals, that was something that she really wanted her whole life, really because of her situation, long story, but like because there wasn't the money or the access or the, sort of cultural standard, it was like she just wasn't going to be able to go to school for the things that maybe she wanted to. And I'm just so grateful to see like that aspect of her so deeply realized, and that's so much a part of her legacy. Yeah, so I guess what I want the world to know about my Aunt Karen. I mean, it's been really hard for me to acknowledge that she's actually gone. My mom was Karen's sister, and I've known Karen since I was just a couple of days old. So the loss is so great. The loss is so big that it's, I know so many of us are feeling that. It's like she occupied such a big place in our hearts and in our lives. Just like forever available, like always available, like with just this sort of outpouring of love and wisdom and just real truth and honesty, and like, being able to give this really like priceless feedback and just hold space for like all of the craziness of life with such genuine interest and love. And I'm, just sort of like, what the hell do you do with that being taken away? So I know we're all just reeling, but I just feel, just the expansion and the feeling of blessing that I am now, more deeply connecting with is like the ways that she influenced my life, I could never fully explain. If you can look at me just from 6 inches on Zoom, like I have been so heavily influenced by this single person in my life. Like, I think about my mom, and when my mom passed away and all of this crazy stuff that we went through together, but like now that she's passing away, like I'm really looking back, like my Aunt Karen was the one who like made it possible for me to go to massage school when I like figured out that I wasn't going to become a nurse, and that like traditional medicine wasn't like my bag. And like, when I went to do my nutrition certification, like so much of who I have become and the business that I have made and like the work that I now do in the world, that she like allowed me, like more so than even maybe my parents, you know, like she championed me and like made so many of those things just outright possible. Like, you know, believed in me and trusted me. And sorry, I'm not trying to just cry through this whole entire thing, but I didn't really know that I was going to be able to speak like this. So, thank you. Yeah, I want to remember her through, you know, these incredible gatherings. I know so many people have mentioned the Thanksgiving parties and the Christmases and the backyard hangouts and all of these things. Like, I mean, that was like, I was so young when I first started being a part of those, you know what I mean? It was like Marge and Miguel and Michael and like everyone is gay, everyone is like a different color, like everyone is everything like around the table, and that's just what it is, you know, like that's what it is. And the way that she has just held that as a baseline and been such a radical example, like so ahead of her time, you know, like really pushing us all forward, like we are all a family. Like there's no two ways about it. And to hear people of such stature and like responsibility in the community and politics and all of this say that, like, you know, she was like the most shining example of a progressive Democrat like they've ever met. Like, I mean, I know those things because I lived it with her, but like, it's just so amazing, like, to hear her capacities and like the way, like the reach of her heart and her devotion to all of this, like the progress that she was able to impact with her lifetime. And I know she is probably so pissed because she wanted to do more, you know? Okay, we have to touch on her style. Like, obviously, like Aunt Karen, like from, you know, really the first time I can remember going to San Francisco at the house on Fell Street, I remember, you know, Aunt Karen was like, dresses. What's up? Your daughter doesn't have any dresses. We need to like do something about this. And so that was like, you know, my mom was definitely like way more of a tomboy, like not into style or fashion or anything. So like literally all you see that is here, like all of this is her. And, you know, when I was little, I just like, I mean, that was like one of our things was like every time I would visit, I would just love like going through all of her things and like looking at them all and like just organizing them, and like I would help fix all the broken ones because she really wore them out, right? Like it wasn't just like, oh, I have this crazy collection out here collecting dust. Like it was like she wore everything and was like breaking pieces, and like, you know, it was like constant maintenance needed. And so like that was part of my little fun project when I would come, as we would like comb through the archives of like this crazy collection of like, you know, every period of like the last century basically like can be documented in earrings. Like it's incredible. Like she could like like I was like, this should go to like a museum, you know, like this is such an incredible bank of knowledge that she has about all of these designers and like why they were important and like their things and all of this. And just like she just reminded us to just wear what you want, like be your joy, like be bold, like wear things that like bring you happiness and like make you feel good and like make other people feel good. And there's, you know, there's so much to be said about expressing yourself in that way, but like to me this is actually a dress that belonged to her mother and my mom's mom, my grandmother. And you know, just being that free-spirited person that you know, or whoever you are inside, like just allowing that part of you to come through and like just having fun, not taking things too seriously all the time, even though I know she could be like pretty serious. But like, oh, I just miss her so much. She was so amazing. And I know you know that, but like, just such a shining example of a human in my life. And I feel so blessed. Like, I feel so blessed to have had such close proximity to her and like have her watching over me my whole life. Like, I obviously am like flapping in the wind a little bit. Like, you know, she was my grandparents. She was my, you know, in many ways, like she's been like a second mother to me. And like, the loss is huge, but you know, somehow we have to carry on. We embody her legacy. We wear her legacy. We, you know, we speak it into words. You know, we make it so with our actions, and I guess that's what I would hope to say. Just really so honored to have lived a life so closely to a person of such greatness.
Thank you, Shannon.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Arman. I got to know Karen through working with her on political campaigns. Actually, Bob Sampion's was the first one, his mayoral campaign. And I remember when I first met Karen, I thought, my God, who is this woman? Some kind of a trippy Technicolor hippie mirage. And then I got to know her a little bit better. And I was like, she's a Sharpie. She knows what she's doing. She's on the ball. And through Bob's first mayoral campaign, and we fought a few times like cat and dogs, and we got into it. But over time, we developed a mutual respect. And I worked with Karen on a lot of campaigns, and we worked closely. We really worked as a team so many times. We would get together and, you know, for a TV commercial to write it. And she and I could sit there with a candidate and write a commercial, you know, in an hour and just put it all together. She had just an amazing head for politics, and my respect for her just continued to grow. And she was someone that I would call and talk to, and we would talk to each other. I mean, I always remember I would call her up and she would always be like, "Hey, you, what's up?" You know, and it hurts that I'm not going to hear that again, because she really was someone that I could confide in. And, you know, the amazing thing about Karen, I mean, when you do stuff in politics, it's easy to get cynical, and I do. And somehow Karen, she always could see the good in people, and she had the ability to talk to people that I never would. I'd be like, "What, are you crazy?" And she's like, no, so-and-so's okay. Just talk to him, you know? And there were definitely times when I didn't want to do stuff or work with someone. And Karen was like, "Yeah, come on, just give it a try, you know, trust me." And so we had an interesting relationship and interaction, and really got to know each other over the years. You know, I just remember times when the campaigns got tough, like Bob's campaign, and he was just sitting on the floor. He couldn't take it anymore. And Karen just was like, "Okay, Bob, you need to sit up. We have to do this." We had cameras there ready to do a commercial. And Bob's like, "I can't take it anymore. This is just too much. I'm exhausted." She's like, let's just do it. And Karen just got him back on the rails. I mean, she was really a great, a person that would really guide people, and really gave an insight that other people maybe didn't have, not just in politics, but just in general. And like I said, what was amazing about Karen to me is that, you know, I mean, like when sometimes I would get negative, and she told me she had some property in Georgia. So I'd call her up and I'd be like, "Okay, I'm done. Let's build a compound. Let's build a compound, and we'll put a big fence. We'll block everything out." And she would laugh and say, "Okay, what's up?" And we would talk, you know, but she always managed to see the positive in people. And I don't know, it's too soon. I felt like we had a lot of good work to do together, positive stuff, and just we really worked as a partner on some of this stuff, the media and things we did for different candidates. People that she focused on and I try to focus on, and we feel were like independent, who are going to do something good for the community. And she really had her heart in the community. And I don't know where she found the energy, quite frankly. I mean, she's kind of amazing. I mean, she had some medical challenges, but she was all over the place, just connecting with people and networking and trying to bring things together in a positive way. And I'm just going to miss the hell out of her. It's just way too soon. And just want to send my love to John and Jonathan. I know everyone here is missing her terribly. And, it's just, I'll just think of Karen, when things get tough, the wisdom and the outrageous outfits. We'll miss you, Karen. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mark. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay, hi. I'm Jennifer Borg, and somehow I ended up in rural Georgia and with rural Georgia internet. So I'm hoping that this will continue to hold and be clear enough. The last time I saw Karen, when I was visiting California a couple of years ago, one of the things she said to me was that she, with losing her sister and her father and other relatives, she was worried, that the stories wouldn't continue. And I have to say, listening to everybody today, I can see that the stories will continue. And I think that's a real wonderful thing. And I knew Karen because she was my first apartment roommate when I was in college at VCU in Richmond. And we became friends. We were kind of different in our personalities at first and learned each other's foibles. And Karen and Lonnie Trykowski and I formed a friendship that was kind of based around that apartment and being roommates at one time and another. And so, I've known Karen for over 45 years, and knowing her in our young life, we shared each other's heartbreaks and ups and downs and anxieties that happen in youth and significant changes. She didn't really like me at first, but I would have agreed to do anything almost to be in that apartment, to me. And our apartment was filled with the people who surrounded her, who were writers and poets and artists and musicians. And to me, as a young person, it made me feel like I was in Paris or Harlem during, some kind of formative artistic time. As a roommate, she hated doing dishes, and but she tolerated my adventure. She is the one who introduced me to Southern cooking and canning and freezing. And as a Yankee girl, I had never put bacon grease into green beans or eaten stewed tomatoes or okra or rabbit or any of those things. And it really opened my world. She often took me to, and many others, to her father's farm in Fredericksburg for long weekends. And they always brought me back, even though I seemed to break an appliance every time. And they tolerated me and really made me feel included. Karen gave me an honorary Southern name so I would fit in better. She hated wearing shoes, but as everyone has mentioned, she loved dramatic jewelry. She was the smartest, most well-read person I know, who also loved romance novels. She was just versatile in every way. She was a poet, she was an artist, and she had experienced really deep loss and assumed great responsibilities at such a young age. And she always took care of her family, and she loved her son, Jonathan, her partner, John, her sister, Teresa, and so many friends. I think she was a heroic. I was going to try not to cry too, but oh well. But another thing about Karen is that she was a risk taker, and she took risks and faced challenges of all kinds, and she never whined about the aftermath. You know, she just did it. And she was, you know, unafraid to travel in almost any way, including hitchhiking back and forth across the country barefoot with her dog. And she made friends around the world and, you know, could talk to anyone. She was generous, she was accepting, and yet she had a bullshit meter that really did not suffer inauthentic reactions or people. And even though we live far apart, and I so regret that, we could always pick up from where we left off. We were at each other's weddings. She gave me great advice for both personal and professional guidance. I treasured the time I had with her, and I wish there was more. I'm so glad to have listened to all of you and your stories, and I know all the people who haven't spoken have deep stories. The last time I communicated with Karen was the Saturday, really before she passed away, and I had sent her a picture of a Christmas ornament that she had made for me, I don't know, a few years after college. And she had made one of herself and one of me. And she herself was a red-haired angel, and with her little dog, PW. And no, I have always treasured that image of her, especially now, thinking of her as an angel and winking. And I remember someone who talked about her doing things with a wink. And I'm hoping that, you know, she is looking down at all of us and winking. And I just feel her loss. And John and Jonathan and Shannon and all of you that are her dearest friends for short and long periods of time. You know, my heart goes out to all of us. And because she was a brilliant, caring person, she made the world better. And we're all going to miss her. That's it.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you to all our speakers. Jonathan would like to come up and say a few words. So with that, Jonathan.
everybody. It's good to see everybody here. Not one with words, and it takes a lot for me to cry. But I say that to me so a lot. To block out the pain that I feel a lot that I know I won't be able to sufficiently overpass. But my mom, I know, was a very loving person, and some of the memories I have with her is I would talk to her a lot about, I was very insecure when I was younger, about everything, about girls, friends, people bullying me, or meeting friends at first. Even as I got older, but she used to tell me, I used to think I was, I used to think I wasn't so good looking, even though, everyone, has their issues. She would say that you are very good looking, even though I know it didn't mean much. She made me feel like I was on top of the world and I could conquer any kind of relationship or friend that I had. And we did talk a little bit about when she would pass sometimes. And the one thing that I can't remember, the last thing she said was that you'll be fine. So every day when I go to work, I think about my mom. And I have to be happy around people because I don't want them to feel down. I got to be strong. I look up to the sky and think of her. I go, you're one, she was there with me. And she left me when I was 29. And I tell a lot of people that I've become a man early. So that's what I'm going to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Very, very well said. Your mom's proud of you. She is. Okay, with that, and there were a lot of kind words that were spoken about Karen. Now, all of us have a Karen story. The reason I wore a suit today was because one of the things Karen told me early on is, as a mayor, you need to wear a suit. And I went, what? You didn't wear a suit. I remember my first day at work. You know what I wore to work? Levi's, a Hawaiian shirt, and tennis shoes. And she shook her head. She couldn't believe it. So, Karen, yes, I'm wearing a suit today. And I know you're probably going, oh, Bob, for goodness sakes. Yes. But thank you so very much for all of you and your kind words. With that, I'm going to invite Pastor Don back up for a message of hope.
All right, I don't know about all of you, but I think let's just start with the collective deep breath. One of the hardest things that we experience in life is the loss of someone that we love. And we may have a lot of different feelings around that. And the very important thing for all of us is to actually express our feelings so that we can heal and have a sense of peace. There's actually no value at this time in saying, I'm going to stay strong. This is the time to be real. not say I'm fine when you're not. And it is okay to not be okay. This has been a really tough year. And being real also means that we don't allow others to tell us how we should grieve or how long it should take. For each one of you will need to do your work in your own way and in your own time. And we need to do that without comparing ourselves to others. And for some of us, this process of healing might include complaining that we direct towards God or to that higher power that Karen believes in. And I invite you to, no matter what you call that higher power, cry out, I am hurting, and I want you to hear me. Now maybe you say that quietly by yourself, or maybe you yell, not caring if anyone else will hear. Now, maybe thinking that sounds a little crazy, but it actually is not. Because when we cry out to God or to the universe, it does not fall on deaf ears. The divine makes their presence known, wraps us in arms of love, and holds us in comfort. That divine power whispers in our ears and to the very depth of our heart, I am with you. And I will not let you go, for I love you and I will hold you in my arms as long as you need. And most importantly, I will never leave you. And this divine presence helps us to know that Karen has been released. Karen has received the welcome of those who are compassionate and loving and giving. All her work for the people of Vallejo does not go unnoticed. She is praised for all she has done to make things better for countless people, even those she might have never met in person. She is now in a place created especially for her, a place filled with beautiful love beyond what we can imagine, where she will see that divine face. A place where it is always a perfect day for helping and advising others. And I can imagine right now that she's hanging out with all of those liberals and justice seekers who have already welcomed her. And they are having a good time debating the fine points of politics. And it is for us to remember that this promise of paradise, and it is a promise, and it is a promise that is made to each one of us. And if we really let this promise sink into our hearts, we know that even though our body may die, a part of us lives on. Some people call this part our soul, but no matter how you label it, there is that essence of who we are which lives on. Karen lives on. She lives on in our hearts. She will continue to inspire us every time we seek justice or when we seek to improve the lives of others. Karen left a legacy that will not be forgotten. Her presence continues in all those she fought for. And her legacy lives on in all the places she helped guide. It's Solano Community College, PB, GBRD, Better Vallejo, and I'm sure I've left a lot of things out. She lives on in all those she mentored. Those who will remember her listening ear and her joyful smile. It is never easy to let go of someone we love, but there is some comfort in knowing that she did not just end. And I would like to read to you a poem by Mary Elizabeth Frye. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond flints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift, uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die. Karen will be remembered in our hearts. And time will help change how we feel that grief. But that love in our hearts will never change and will never leave us. And for that, we can indeed be grateful.
Thank you so very much, Pastor. Next, I believe Tom's going to play his video. Is that correct, Tom?
Yeah, or if you want to just go ahead and close and we'll play it.
Okay, that. Services are always a struggle. They're a struggle for all of us. But it's all about remembering and believing. And that's what's so important for all of us here today. So with that, we're going to go ahead and close. I would like to invite folks to vigil later on at Alden Park, which is on Mare Island. And it'll begin at 4:30 p.m. It'll be socially distanced, of course. And so if you're going to attend, please wear a mask. You might want to bring some light beverages if you'd like to. You probably might want to bring a light because it'll probably get dark. And also bring a chair if you're just going to sit. But please, if you wish, please come out at 4:30. And with that, on behalf John, and Jonathan. I want to thank you all for being here this afternoon. Remember Karen. We look for Karen. And with that, thank you very much. Yes, sir. A special shout out to Tom Wilco for putting that together for us and getting us online today for those that couldn't join us in the service. So with that, again, from John and Jonathan, thank you so very much for coming. That concludes today's service. Good afternoon.